Oh my God, this question's crazy. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. We are going to make a matcha together, a rich girl matcha, and have a Q&A. I'm so excited. I love doing Q&As because it's just a chance for us to get cozy and for me to answer any of your burning questions, I guess. Today, most of the questions were about money, so that's why I'm making a matcha. I kind of decided that for 2025, I mean, it'll alternate between like espresso and matcha, but I love the idea of naming matcha like my rich girl matcha so that every time I make it, I can just remind myself to like feel abundant. And if I pair it with my budgeting, it can be like this fun little tradition. I don't know what I'm thinking. I thought that would be fun. Actually, technically today, I'm not making matcha. I'm so gonna pronounce this wrong, but hojicha. Yeah, I definitely pronounced that wrong. This is from Ameri, which is also the company I use for my matcha, Vancouver based, and so good. So this is it says slow roasted and low caffeine. I've had this for a while and I finally just tried it. The color is a little bizarre, but the taste is amazing. If you're a fan of green tea, this tastes like a almost concentrated kind of jasmine green tea. I find it's absolutely delicious. It's great because if it's like later afternoon or you don't want a ton of caffeine, personally, I've already had a coffee today and it's about to be 3 p.m. so I don't want too much caffeine. This is perfect. So we're just gonna whip this up. Oh, I'm gonna froth some milk, very important, because we're doing like latte style. I might have to water this down because I'm kind of running out of milk. Can you guys tell I've had caffeine? So I'm just gonna make some foam. Ooh, that went a little crazy. I'm still very much getting the hang of this thing. But yeah, we are just gonna get cozy. Like I said, a lot of the questions were about money, so I will happily answer that. You guys can see the color is like a bit dark and funny, but trust me, it tastes really good. I'm gonna add a little bit of water, like I said. Send me to jail, I'm making a mess. I'm gonna add some honey because I'm in a sweet mood. And just a touch of cinnamon to finish this off. All right, perf, let's go over to the couch and get into this Q&A. Okay, we're actually doing chair instead of couch because the lighting's better. Normally for my Q&As, I like to like break out, wait, hold on, I don't like this frame. I don't like the frame. I want to be more cozy, like less about my face and more cozy. Hi, my angel. Oh my God, you're being so cute. Oh no. Hold on, Maggie Cam. Maggie Cam, my good girl. Maggie Cam, so perfect and cute. Okay, you guys can see like the mess that I try and hide in my videos. Yeah, my place is kind of a mess right now. Well, it's concentrated to certain areas, namely the kitchen, isn't it always? Yeah, normally for my Q&As, I like to make it a bit more of a production. I'll take out like my lights and stuff, but honestly right now, you guys, I just can't be bothered. I just am excited to like sit and chat with you guys. The frame is still bothering me. Hold, please hold. I'm gonna bring you down a touch. And we're hiding the viewfinder so that I can't look at myself. I try to do a Q&A about once a month because I feel like they're a great way to check in with one another, share life updates kind of outside of the vlogs. And I don't know, you guys ask the best questions and I have so much fun answering them. And I feel like we're able to spill the tea a little bit more. Normally I will post on Instagram for my Q&A prompts, but because I've been getting so many new YouTube subscribers, which is so exciting, I decided to post only on YouTube to see what you guys want. And I feel like because a lot of the subscribers are coming in from my how I budget video, a lot of the questions are about money compared to when I prompt on Instagram. And it's a lot of like, when are you getting engaged? When are you having a baby? Which I also love those types of questions, but we're gonna do budgeting today and that will be, I should take this off, it's gonna annoy everyone. Anyway, I'm super wired right now, so you guys are gonna get what you get, and let's dive in. This is gonna be a show for me to edit. From Caitlin Bell, can you do a get to know me / life update for those new and old? So yes, that's a perfect idea to start with. So my name's Zoe, Z-O-E. I'm 28 years old. I'll be 29 in July. So I'm a Leo and I live in Montreal with my dog and my boyfriend. For work, I have 3 jobs. I'm a content creator, which is like my #1 passion. And I also work as a freelance copywriter. And then I also work as a Pilates and barre instructor. So 3 very different jobs, which honestly makes me so happy. I went to business school. I did a Bachelor of Commerce here in Montreal at Concordia University, and I wanted to be a consultant. That was my dream job. I worked insanely hard in university and actually landed my dream job at one of my dream companies, which was one of the Big 4. Instantly hated that job. Like my whole body knew something was not right. I felt so anxious. I felt so unappreciated. I was also unappreciative. I originally started my channel, you guys, 6 years ago when I was making vlogs about my experience studying abroad, and I would make like 1 video a month. Then I transitioned into kind of like corporate fashion / consulting vlogs, and that was how my channel started to grow a little bit, was through those work vlogs. Then I quit my consulting job and I made a video about my experience in consulting, and that was like I think to this day, it's like my most watched video. I mean, the term going viral like is so overused now, but I guess in a little bit of a way, that video went viral. I think it got like 200,000 views, which for me is a lot. I kind of became known as the girl who quit her consulting job, and people would DM me on Instagram and being like, I really want to quit my job. And I'd be like, oh. I stayed in consulting, just in different branches of consulting after that, before finally being laid off from my 3rd consulting job. Made a video about that, and that is now my like 2nd most viewed video. So for a while, I was now the girl who got laid off. Getting laid off was the biggest blessing in disguise, because I genuinely don't think that I'm meant for that kind of 9 to 5 role. The older I get and the more I do this type of work, which is nonstop, kind of all hours, but you make your own schedule and you take breaks when you can or when you need to. Being my own boss works a lot better for me. There's definitely days when I miss the structure, but I feel like now, I think I'm like 3 years into being self-employed. So it was 3 years ago that I got laid off. I feel like I'm finally in the flow of it. And it's not because I started making so much more money. It's just because I found the balance that works for me. When I was just doing YouTube and copywriting, I struggled a lot because I was never leaving the house and I was just always by myself. Copywriting is a very solitary job, and YouTube is also a very solitary job. Adding in teaching barre and Pilates has honestly been life-changing, which is kind of a life update, is that I'm so grateful for adding in that kind of hobby / mini career path into my life, because now I get to go out and have social time and move my body, which I never did before. I didn't talk to anyone. I didn't prioritize working out. I would literally like never leave my house, you guys, except for taking out my dog. Anyway, so that's kind of my like career background and like my background on YouTube, which leads into the life update of, I feel like I'm in a really good place right now. I feel really happy. I like my weekly schedule. I'm very busy and I'm tired a lot of the time, but like I'm happy and I'm content. So that's really cool. Aside from work stuff, a little bit more about me and like my background. I grew up in Ottawa and moved to Montreal when I was 18. My family is like super complicated. Basically, my parents are split up. I have 2 other siblings from 2 other moms. So we all share the same dad, and then we all have different moms. It's like kind of crazy, but we're very fortunate in that everyone gets along for the most part, as well as can be. So that's kind of my messy, happy family. My dad is Canadian-born Lebanese, so both my grandparents on my dad's side were Lebanese. He grew up in small town Ontario. My mom also grew up in a different small town, Ontario, and her parents were British immigrants. So I'm half Lebanese and half British, but both my parents were born in Canada. I have a brother and a sister. I don't have really a lot of hobbies because I've monetized them all. I guess like barre and budgeting are kind of my hobbies that are also my jobs. I will self-identify as kind of an anxious person, and I love being silly and having fun, and I don't know, I guess a hobby of mine is skiing. So anyway, I feel like that's a bit about me, and you can just continue getting to know me through my vlogs and my Q&As and through my money videos as well, because I always try and inject as much realness and personality as I can into every single video, because I don't know, even when it comes to budgeting videos, like they don't need to be so boring. They don't need to be so stiff. It's like, why is it always dudes telling you what to do? Or British girls. I love the British girls, but like they're all British. So anyways, that's me. Now let's get into the questions. Okay, we're gonna jump right in with a super juicy question from Ariana. Hi Zoe, question/topic for you. How do you navigate financial challenges/disagreements with a spouse or serious partner? What if you align on the big things but have differences in the way you approach budgeting, spending, and have different comfort levels with debt? Thank you. So I love this question. Finances and relationships are so interesting, and by no means am I an expert on it or anything like that. I feel like myself and my boyfriend JS, we are always just kind of learning, and I think it's like, I feel like nobody's got it down pat, and you're kind of like always evolving together. For anyone who's new, I live with my boyfriend. We are like in a serious relationship, but we're not engaged or married yet. We do not split our finances. We have no shared bank account. It's just not something that has come up yet. I don't think we'll ever completely merge our finances. I know a lot of people like to do that when they get married. For me, it's not for me. At least for right now, like maybe one day I'll change my mind, but at least for right now, it's not for me. And he, I think, feels the same way. However, eventually we probably will have like a shared bank account when it comes to like house stuff or kid stuff. It's just, we're not in that chapter of life yet. At this present moment, my boyfriend makes more money than I do, and this can lead to disagreements, and it can lead to kind of lifestyle differences that, yeah, you have to navigate. Luckily, I think him and I are really on the same page of the person who makes less money should never be overreaching to compensate for the person who makes more. So here's a really like black and white example. Let's say my boyfriend and I are going on a trip, and he is like, you know what? I worked really hard this year. I made great money. I got my bonus. I want to fly first class. Typically when we travel, he'll pay for his ticket and I'll pay for mine. In this scenario, I would be like, I'm happy for you, but I can't afford first class. There's different solutions here. Either he stays back in economy with me, I pay more money to go in first class, or he pays for my first class ticket. I think this one, not to flip you guys off, but I think the second option is where you would be having a problem, is if the person who's earning less or who feels uncomfortable spending more would be overreaching or going outside of their comfort zone to keep up with this other person. So if I couldn't really afford a first class ticket, but I felt like I had to keep up with him, that would make me feel bad. That would put me at a disadvantage and could lead to disagreements down the line. We've actually spoken about this because I think this is something that like went around on Twitter, and we talked about what would happen in this scenario. And we agreed that the right thing to do would be that if he wants to splurge and go in first class, then he would also splurge for the difference in upgrading my ticket. That's just how we would do things. Realistically, we're also just not at that point in our life, so we'd both be chilling in economy. Maybe we'd pay for like extra legroom. To me, in a serious relationship, even if both people don't earn the same amount of money or aren't comfortable spending the same, you kind of want to be on the same footing, right? Like within your life, you don't want to feel like there are these huge differences. I think if one person is always spending more or flaunting what they have, that can lead to resentment. When I first started dating JS, before you have information about how this person likes to spend money or this or that, all I knew was that he was older than me and he drove a nicer car than me. I didn't even have a car. Did I have a car at the time? I did. He had a nicer car than me. All I knew was that he just had a little bit more than me. And it made sense because he was older, he had a different job in a different sector. And I was worried of like, oh shoot, like what are his spending habits? And am I gonna have to spend to keep up with him? I remember having a conversation with him right when we started going out of just like, hey, I'm still repaying some of my debt. I'm kind of on this budgeting journey. And he was like, yeah, that's cool. If we were going out for a fancy dinner, it was kind of understood that he would be the one paying. But of course, when we went somewhere that was a little bit less fancy, it would be me who picked up the bill. And so we just kind of balanced things out that way. Anyway, sorry, I'm giving you guys like all the background about my relationship without actually answering the question. I guess I'm just trying to give you guys like concrete examples of how to potentially avoid disagreements, but they will come up inevitably. I think in the face of an actual argument or disagreement, you have to remember where each person is coming from. And as long as the person is not coming from a malicious place where they want to make you feel bad or they want to make you spend more money or they don't care about your finances. I think a middle ground can be drawn, and that just comes from like constant communication. Both of you constantly communicating what your goals are, what path you're on. I think it would be extremely helpful for both parties to know, you know, the kind of salary range that they're in and have that transparency between the two people in a relationship. At the end of the day, if you're in a committed partnership, you need to look at your relationship as a team, and teammates work together towards common goals. So you should be supporting your partner and your partner should be supporting you on both of your financial journeys towards your goals, whatever that may look like. Now, what she said in the second part of the question was, what if you align on the big things but have differences in the way you approach budgeting, spending, and different comfort levels with debt? This is JS and I. Like you guys know, I like to sit down, I do my cash envelopes, I do my budget tracker. He doesn't do any of that. Like he puts everything on his credit card and pays off his credit card at the end of the month. I am so uncomfortable with debt. I do not want debt, and he's a little bit more comfortable with it. He is very rationally minded and he is able to kind of look at things very black and white, whereas I'm a lot more emotional. That doesn't mean that we're not a match. I actually think it means that we complement each other perfectly. I'm able to bring him back down to earth in certain scenarios, like he was spending way too much on groceries. We looked at our grocery spend of last year, comparing mine to his. His was like so high for no reason. So I was able to kind of pull him back down to earth and be like, let me kind of show you how to be patient and how to find the deals at the grocery store. And he's able to pull me back down to earth when I'm feeling anxious, or when I talk about the fact that having a mortgage terrifies me, he's able to bring me back down to earth. I do not believe that for a relationship to be successful, you both need to have the same spending habits and budgeting mindset. I do think you need to have common goals that you're able to work towards together, which it sounds like you guys have. So I feel like having different approaches is totally fine as long as you're both kind of moving in the same direction and working towards those common goals. So speaking of finances and relationships, this question is from B. Any tips on frugal date nights, please? Lots of love from Sri Lanka. Oh my God, I love when you guys comment where you're watching from. It's so cool. So before I answer that question, let's talk about the insane date night content that we see online, where it's like, I'm thinking Pookie and Jet, right? Where they're like dressed to the nines. Like I don't even own outfits like that in my closet. And you know, they're just going out for dinner and it's like their weekly date night. And you know what? I'm so happy for them, but that is not my reality. And I don't think that's reality for most people. JS and I try to have a weekly date night, but our weekly date night does not look like that. And it does not even look like going to the restaurant every week. I feel like we hear date and we associate it with going out to the restaurant or going out for drinks. Date night can happen at home. To me, date night is putting your phone away, putting the computer away, and having quality time with one another. And that can happen at home pretty much for free. You can turn a regular night into a date night with just a few key things, okay? And I'm not talking like sexy time date night, but this maybe could also apply. Dim the lights, candles, boom, now you have ambiance, a little bit of music. Ambiance. Spend some time cooking together. Maybe you can choose a recipe together and go grocery shopping for it together, cook it together, sit down and eat together. And that just sounds so lovely. That's like the perfect date night. Lately, JS and I have been really into crosswords. It's like so random, but you can sit down and just do a little crossword together and just, I feel like date night equals quality time. And I feel like we forget that a lot. So it doesn't really matter what you're doing as long as you're spending quality time together. Maybe you could go to the grocery store and pick out some fun snacks and watch a movie together, you know? Make sure you keep your phones away during the movie and just like actually watch it together and kind of simulate as if you're in a movie theater. Close all the lights, you know. Instead of scrolling endlessly on Netflix looking for a movie, just rent one that you've been meaning to watch for $5 on like Apple TV or Amazon. And also, last little thing is, even if you don't drink, putting anything into a wine glass is gonna make you feel super fancy. So just these little hacks, I think, to recreate a restaurant, recreate the movie theater, can make for super affordable and budget-friendly date nights. Oh, also puzzles. I really wanna get into puzzles this year. I feel like doing puzzles as a date night activity is such a good idea. Okay, and last thing is, on your date night, try maybe not to talk about your kids and try not to talk about your dog and try not to talk about work and just like, I don't know, talk about something cool. Talk about your financial goals. Talk about your future together. Like set goals and dream and have that quality romantic time, because that costs no money. This next question's a bit less budgeting related, but it's super cute. So from Carolina, can you share, if possible and if you feel comfortable, how many kids would you like to have, and when you and your partner would like to start a family, have you thought about it? So I think about this all the time. It's like, I don't know. I feel like for women who want to start a family, I would imagine that it's like constantly in your head because of the GD biological clock. It's like so annoying. Men don't have this problem, but unfortunately it's something for us to think about. I have always said that I wanted to have 4 kids. I don't know where that came from. We were 3 kids growing up. My mom's family was 3 kids. They weren't the closest of siblings though. My dad's family, on the other hand, they were 5 and they were super close. So I feel like that's where my family inspo comes, just because I was closer to my dad's siblings growing up. We would visit them multiple times a year. They all had kids and we'd hang out with my cousins, and it was just like a really nice family dynamic. And I just feel like having a big family would be such a blessing and so much fun. Someone told me this the other day, which is that you will hear only children say that they wish they had siblings, but you'll never hear people with siblings say that they wish they didn't have siblings. So I definitely want kids. I definitely want more than one. I think 3 or 4 would be amazing. But then again, I've never even had one, so I don't know what that's like. Finances is a big thing that scares me about having kids because it just seems so expensive, and I know that I'm gonna wanna work less, especially when the kids are very young. It's just something that I've always known because my parents both worked so much when I was young, and I just remember wishing that they were around more. I had friends who had either moms or dads who were very involved, very around, always at school, there when they came home from school, and I remember being envious of that. So I just want to be that kind of mom to my kids, and I hope that JS will also be able to be a very present dad and be more flexible with his time. Like, that's just always been a goal of mine. Given what I do for a living, the more I work, the more money I make, and the less I work, the less money I make. So yeah, that definitely scares me, is like knowing I'm gonna want to not take time off, but just work less. That plus the kind of startup costs of having a baby definitely impact my kind of timeline, because I just always feel like I need to have more savings, you know, and have more space too. That's another thing. There's like so much to consider, but at the end of the day, I know it doesn't really matter. Like, you can have a baby in an apartment. It's totally fine. I'm just like, I know I want my mom to help, and we only have one bed. Like, where will she sleep? So anyway, it's just stuff like that. But being fully honest with you guys, we do not have a like, okay, on this day, like I'm gonna take out my IUD and we're gonna start trying. Like, we don't have that figured out. I would say it's in the next year or 2. That would be my guess, and that would also be my wish. So there you go, 4 kids, let's go. From Peter, what do you think about the impact of social media on budgeting and living a financially smart life? Have you ever felt like you're buying more things because of other people's posts? Great question. I saw this question in advance, and it really provoked a lot of thought for me, because I feel like the expected answer would be, yeah, for sure it makes me want to buy more. And I think for a lot of people that would be the case. However, if I think about myself, the period of time where I spent the most money was not because I was influenced by social media. It's because I was influenced just by the world around me. I feel like we forget, like, we live in a very social media hating society, which fair enough. Like, I hate social media a lot too. And I do not consider YouTube as social media. I'm talking like Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, throwback. The time in my life where I spent the most money unnecessarily was in university and right after university. And that was me being influenced by my peers. That was me wanting to spend to fit in, because I thought that if I had the best outfits, the most new outfits, this bag, this, that, whatever, that I would be liked and that I would fit in, and also that I would get a boyfriend. It's so funny because none of those things matter, and all of the dumb shit that I bought from Forever 21, it just doesn't matter. Back then, I had no concept of financial literacy. I had no concept of saving for my future or spending with intention. I had no concept of any of that. All I thought was that every new thing I bought would make me happier and would make my life better. And again, that didn't come from social media, that came from my peers. I was working in a gym at the time. I was working like cleaning and front desk, which is the gym I work at now, but now I'm a teacher there. I worked at this expensive gym, right? And I worked there because I wanted to work out there, but I couldn't afford it, so I got a job there. Genius, I know. But being in that kind of bougie environment, a lot of the clients were these professional people, accountants, lawyers, consultants who could afford to come to this expensive gym, and they were always decked out in Aloe, Lululemon. So as a 22-year-old, even though I could not really afford these things, I was like spending my whole paychecks at Lululemon. I would walk into Lululemon and be like, need. It's funny because now when I kind of would need it more, I'm so much more wait, be logical. And so that was just me being influenced by exactly real people who were coming into the gym. I was super influenced by the girls I went to school with. I went to school with a lot of wealthy people who were, you know, still living at home and who came from wealthier families than I did. And I was working to pay my rent and keep my student loans as low as possible. But I felt like I was competing with these girls to look good. And obviously it's not a competition and university is not a runway, but I felt like it was. I also felt like if I wanted to fit in with these people, I had to look like them. And so I always had to go shopping at Forever 21 and Aritzia. Social media is how I learned how to budget. And I guess I said I don't consider YouTube a social media, but YouTube is really how I learned how to budget. In the same way that sometimes I'll watch a YouTube video and someone will be doing a haul and I'll be like, wow, that's such a cute sweater. Right? Maybe you're watching this and you're like, oh, cute sweater. It is really cute. Every time I wear this, people are like, oh my God, cute sweater. But in the same way that I would have those thoughts, I would also see content that was teaching me how to budget and teaching me how to save money. And so on my channel, I like to try and be a combination of both because I don't believe that spending is evil and it's okay to want a cute sweater from time to time. YouTube helped me learn how to balance all of that. And I think just getting older too and being more confident in who I am as a person has made me realize that you don't learn who you are and you don't find friends and you don't get a boyfriend because you bought so much stuff from Forever 21. I actually can't believe Forever 21 went out of business because like I was probably single-handedly keeping the Montreal one alive. I went to Forever 21 almost every day. It's disgusting because of where I went to school was like next to the Forever 21. Going back to social media and like Instagram and stuff, I feel like it just comes down to you need to have your foundation set of, you know, I can spend this much on treat yourself per month, or I'm doing a no spend, or my goals are more important than having the same sweater as this girl. You need to know your own parameters and you need to kind of scroll with caution. Do not click on every single link you see. Do not buy every single thing you see. Obviously, it's okay to shop once in a while, and I love recommending products to you guys, but do I think that you should jump and click and buy every single time? No, that would be insane. The last thing I'm gonna say about this is there's a lot of, I feel like on TikTok and Instagram, there's a lot of like Amazon fashion that gets pushed, and I feel like that can be more tempting because it's so inexpensive. This is where it can get really tricky of like, oh my God, the dress is only 20 bucks, like buy. Anytime I've bought any fashion thing off Amazon, it has sucked. So just remember that. It's probably gonna suck. Don't click on that link. Here's another kind of social media related question. This is from Angelina. She said, hi Zoe, been a follower since around 15K subs. Oh my gosh, really happy for your growth. Other than the obvious perks of growing your channel, more views, more ad revenue, etc., have there been any unexpected benefits? Have there been any unexpected cons like security concerns or question mark? That's such a good question. I think there's been a lot of unexpected pros. Having someone message me, and this happens to me like ish often, but having someone message me and say, you've changed my relationship with finances, you've inspired me to start budgeting, you've helped me save X amount of dollars, I started cash envelopes because of you and I've saved so much money. Any kind of financial success story makes me so happy because there's genuinely enough financial success out there to go around for all of us, right? It's not just limited to one person. And no matter how much money you make, you can make good decisions for yourself that will impact your future. So much financial content is out there and targeted towards men, and it's just not the same for women. It's starting to be that way, but it's not the same volume. And so I'm so happy when I hear from guys, but especially with girls when they're similar to me, right? And they're like, I was a total shopaholic and like, you know, you helped give me confidence with my budget. That I never could have imagined how good that would feel ever. Like that is so cool. And if you really think and you really project and you're like, okay, if you know, you could have had this impact on someone when they were 24, 25, 26, 30, however, like still in their early years of their life, to know that those good habits, they're going to carry that with them throughout the rest of their life. Like that's mind-boggling. And yeah, I never could have imagined how good that would feel. That also applies to things of just like, you've been a friend to me or you've helped my self-confidence. I never could have imagined how good that would feel because I felt that way by watching other YouTubers. Like YouTubers have been my friends in some of the loneliest periods of my life. And so to be able to be that for anyone watching is so incredible, or to give a confidence boost to someone because they've got bags under their eyes just like me. And they're like, oh, she flaunts her eye bags, so I'm gonna flaunt my eye bags. Like, that's cool, you know? So yeah, I guess I just never would have known how good, like genuinely to my core, that would feel. Unexpected cons. I feel like hate comments are definitely an expected con. Like, they definitely suck. During COVID, I had a really weird incident where I was out at a park. I was reading, because it was like really COVID where like you couldn't really do anything. Someone walked by me, like a guy, and he walked by and he was like, hey, like, what are you reading? And I was like, get away from me. Like, I'm literally reading. I'm not in the mood to talk to you. So he just went away, whatever. And then when I got up to walk home, I checked my DMs and someone had sent me a message like, hey, I saw you in the park reading. I watch your videos, but I didn't want to bother you. And it was also a guy. And I just got really freaked out because I was like, oh my God, was it the same guy that talked to me? Like, where is he right now? Like, is he gonna watch me go home? That person then ended up being my neighbor, and nothing ever happened. It just really, really freaked me out. I ended up messaging them and I hope they're not watching this, but I ended up messaging them and being like, you're making me really uncomfortable, because he like kind of kept messaging me. Anyway, thank God nothing happened. And yeah, this isn't a pro or a con. This is just something funny that I've noticed, especially recently, has started happening, is that people will just like, not like my closest friends, but also not like even-ish total strangers, is people will start talking to me about their budget, but almost in like oh, I don't, like, I need to be better with my money, like as if I'm gonna judge them. And I'm like, yo, like, I'm not judging you. Like, I sometimes feel people, I don't know what the right word is, but I can feel them feel like they need to be a certain way around me, or like they need to justify or talk to me about money. And I'm like, you really don't. Like, I don't care. If you want to talk about money in a fun way or a friendly way, like, of course I'm open to it. But sometimes people just get like a bit funny with me. And I'm like, guys, like, I promise I'm nice. Like, I'm not like this person who's sitting around judging people for their financial decisions. Like, I don't care what other people do, you know? If you tell me success stories, it makes me happy to my core. But if, you know, you want to live your life in whatever way that's different from me, like, I don't care. So that's something that I've noticed happening more recently, and I just think it's funny. This is from Peace Girl 8. Would love to hear more about your thoughts and plans around buying a house, condo, etc. I've just started to more thoughtfully plan and save for a house. I live in California, where the housing market is crazy, and it's hard to imagine affording a home. I don't hate, haha, except the housing market. I expect the housing market in Montreal, the haha was her, not me, and then I started laughing. I expect the housing market is pretty expensive in Montreal too, so would just love to hear your thoughts, math, total budget. Oh God, girl, no, I don't have that. I do not have a budget or anything yet, but okay, first of all, if you're in California, thinking of you, hope everything's okay. I know it's kind of in one area and I don't know where you're at, but hopefully everything's fine. Montreal is definitely expensive, but it's not the most expensive city in Canada. And it's not, I know that the US is having a like real cost of living crisis right now. I think it's worse than in Canada. However, we do have a few cities where it's just out of control, namely Vancouver and Toronto. Montreal is definitely expensive. In the area that I live, it's interesting because this is kind of like my dilemma, mine and JS's dilemma when it comes to buying anything, is that the neighborhood in which we live is full of studios and 1-bedroom apartments. There are very few 2 bedrooms, very few 3 bedrooms, and pretty much no houses. Any houses that are here are tiny and are over $1 million. So our moving dilemma is like, if we could afford something a little bigger in this area, it would be a no-brainer. But there's very, very limited supply, which of course drives the prices way up. I don't want to live in a 1-bedroom apartment forever, like especially if I'm trying to have 4 kids. It just doesn't make sense. And so that drives us out of this neighborhood that we live in, that we love, that we have, you know, friends and like a community in. And so that's really hard. Even moving outside of this neighborhood, the houses are really expensive. It's insane. Like when I look at what's out there, it's absolutely insane. It's definitely discouraging, but I try my best to stay positive because I really believe in manifestation, and I believe that if you have the mindset of like, I'll never be able to afford anything, I'll never be able to afford anything, guess what? You're never going to be able to afford anything. It's the same with dating, right? Like I always used to think that about dating, of if you walk around like, no one's ever going to love me, all men suck, I'm never going to find a boyfriend, I'm never going to find a good man, you're never going to. So I try and keep that same attitude around houses of like, when the time is right, I'll find the right thing. And I don't want just any old house. I want like a house that is perfect and right for me. And so I guess that's like more of a spiritual way to approach this rather than crunching numbers, but that's just because I'm not at the number crunching stage yet. Trying to aggressively build up my savings, especially last year after hardly being able to contribute towards my savings and investing, for me, 2025 is all about building up those savings, and then I'll see. I don't have house buying plans in 2025. If JS didn't own this condo, it would be a different situation, and maybe we would be looking at buying a 2-bedroom or even a 1-bedroom together, but he already owns this. I'm very happy not being an owner. So that's kind of where I'm at. I try not to get discouraged. I'm grateful to be in Montreal. And the fact is, and what I've come to terms with is, yeah, I'm probably gonna have to move to either the suburbs or to a small town. And I've really started to be okay with that. Like growing up, I've told this story before, but I grew up in downtown Ottawa. I always thought I would be a downtown person for the rest of my life. And I just don't feel that way anymore. And that's also not realistic because house prices downtown are insane. The house that I grew up in, the price that my mom bought it for, and then what she sold it for all of those years later, I think like more than 20 years later, is insane. And then what it's probably worth now is insane. And it, like, no shade to my house that I grew up in, but it wasn't a very nice house. The walls were paper thin. It was not like, it was nothing special, and that's okay. But it just goes to show how much prices have inflated and increased. It's a tricky time to get into the housing market, and I have no idea what the future holds, but we gotta stay positive, and I hope you find your dream home, because at the end of the day, that's super exciting. And going back to the social media of it all, we see people's beautiful Pinterest homes all the time. But remember that your home doesn't have to look like that. Your home needs to be safe and comfortable and cozy. It doesn't need to have 15 bedrooms and 12 bathrooms. This question is from Kathy-Ann. Would love if you could do a video on how you would do budgeting for a smaller income. I keep seeing budgeting videos with larger income, but I feel like there isn't enough money with $2,400 to $2,600 a month. This is a great question. I feel like there are so many ways that you can play around to still live your best life on a smaller budget. First things first, you need to start tracking your money. You need to track every dollar that comes in and every dollar that comes out. Of course, I recommend the budget tracker for that. What's great about creating a budget and tracking how much you spend is that you'll be able to see if what you are spending makes sense for your income. So let's go with these numbers that she gave. Let's say $2,400 a month is the income. If your rent is already $2,000 a month, you have $400 left for the rest of your expenses and the rest of your spending throughout the month. That just doesn't make sense, right? I knew so many people in university who were living way above their means. They just wanted to have a nice condo. They wanted to live in like a cool place, and they were spending all of their money on rent. They made $2,000 a month. They spent $2,000 a month on rent. So you need to not be that person. I know it's hard because everywhere is getting so expensive, whether that's renting or buying, but try and find a place to live that is within your means, that you can afford. And if that means living with someone else or taking on roommates, then that's okay, right? Living within your means, especially when it comes to your biggest expense, which is where you live, is so important. Step number 2 would be to analyze the rest of your fixed expenses. Maybe you live in a city where you don't really need a car. Maybe you live in a city where you do need a car, but you don't need such a fancy car. Play around with your fixed expenses, get them as low as possible. Then you need to move over to your variable expenses, and this is where you need to get real and to get strict with yourself. Things like groceries and gas, those are more essential than dining out and, entertainment categories and shopping. If you cannot afford to go shopping, you should not be going shopping. If you cannot afford to be going to fancy restaurants, you should not be going to fancy restaurants. No matter what Instagram says, no matter what the treat yourself culture says, you need to be spending according to your means. At the end of the day, when you see a budgeting video, it doesn't matter how much money is coming in. What matters is how much money is coming in relation to how much money is coming out. Someone who makes $10,000 a month only spends $3,000 and puts the rest into savings, Of course you can't relate to that. When you're earning a smaller income, you have choices to make, and it sucks, but it's true. It's the same as if you have debt. You've got choices to make to slash things off to put towards your debt. Now, all of that sounds kind of depressing, but I want to turn it around and make it fun and make it a challenge for yourself. Looking at your budget, looking at how much you spend, where can you cut things out in a fun way? Let's say you're spending a ton of money on Uber Eats right now. Make a cooking challenge for yourself where you go to the grocery store, try a new recipe every week, meal prep it so that you can take advantage of economies of scale. All of the areas where you're cutting your spending, make it a fun challenge instead of just this like, oh, I have to cut this out. Another thing I would recommend is I'm a huge fan of the side hustle. I know it's not a possibility for everyone, but I think side hustles are amazing. If you have the time, get yourself a side hustle. Rather than sitting at home ordering the Uber Eats that you can't afford, why not do Uber Eats? I've always thought that would be so fun. I don't know why. I just always thought like you could get your partner or get your friends, like do the Uber Eats together. I've seen people do that. Play your favorite music in the car and get out there and make some money. My ultimate favorite side hustle is one that I did when I was first starting out in the corporate world, which was energy exchange at a gym. I would do 1 3 to 4 hour shift a week in exchange for a free gym membership. So that cut the gym expenses right out of my life. And it was a fancy gym, so that gym membership was worth about $250 a month. I was getting that for free in exchange for a couple hours a week. So even though that side hustle wasn't bringing in money, it was saving me a lot of money, which was fantastic. So again, get creative. There's so many ways that you can make and save money, and it doesn't have to be a drag. It can actually be really fun. Okay, I just checked and I've been recording for 50 minutes. Oh my God, this is such a good question. From Lizzie, would you go back to a 9-to-5 corporate job if it offered 100K with bonus and benefits? Well, it says 100K plus, so like how much plus are we talking? Because if we're talking like 200K, like yeah, I'm going. If it was 100K, no. No, I would not, because because of what I spoke about at the beginning of the video. Hold on. I just told you guys how long I've been recording for and this isn't even done, so let me just show you. I used to be obsessed with salaries. I used to be obsessed with earning as much money as possible. And I feel like this year around New Year's, I just really realized that that's not what matters. What matters is what I do with my time and what I do with my money. If I earn a bunch of money, but I'm so miserable, I'd have to go out and spend it all to kind of compensate for the fact that I hate my job. Or maybe I don't even hate my job, but I just hate being confined to a desk all day. Then it's not worth the extra money, right? Your time is so valuable, and I really believe that your time is best spent doing something that you enjoy. The other thing that I kind of realized lately is, even though I don't make $100,000 a year right now, hopefully one day I will. So although I'm not making 6 figures, I kind of have a 6-figure lifestyle just because of what I do for work. So let's say being a Pilates teacher, for example, that does not earn me 6 figures a year, but in exchange for teaching, I have memberships for free at really nice gyms and studios here in Montreal. It costs a lot of money to have memberships at those places, and I get that for free. So although being a Pilates teacher doesn't earn me 6 figures, it still gives me that really nice lifestyle and access to that nice lifestyle. If I were to go back to the corporate world, I would most likely have to stop teaching, or at least stop teaching so frequently. There's no way I would be able to have a corporate job, do YouTube, and teach classes. So I would probably give up teaching classes and then end up going and getting a membership. That membership can cost up to $400 a month. I like to do bar and Pilates, and those are really expensive memberships. So I'd be going back to earn more money to then spend that money to do something that I'm already doing now. So yeah, the answer is no. But then again, if we were to keep increasing that salary, that's where it would get harder to say no. It's so crazy to get older and watch your mindset change. But yeah, there was a time when my earnings were more important to me than my lifestyle and even my happiness, or I thought that earning more would make me happier. But now I'm realizing that my lifestyle is really what equals my happiness, and I'm happy to spend less. I'm happy to go out less if I can do work that I enjoy and have the flexibility that I enjoy. Okay, we got another social media question from Emily. Hi Zoe, it would be great for us if you can share some tips on how you manage not to fall for the many social media scams that we are constantly exposed to. And then I just asked her to clarify because I wasn't sure what she meant by scams, because what jumps to mind for me, first and foremost, is those scams of like, I'm gonna teach you how to make $1 million from your couch, just buy my course. Like, what? But here she's saying trends that are always full of lies, unrealistic routines, excessive consumerism, etc. So Yeah, definitely like the lying trends are crazy. I feel like I do my best to stay off TikTok because that's where a lot of that content is. Keep in mind, you guys, whatever content you watch and interact with, the algorithm's gonna feed you more of that. So if you want to see less of those types of videos, you need to not watch them, and you can even do like the 3 dots and say, I'm not interested in this. That way you'll get less of those types of videos. When you are scrolling, especially on an app like TikTok, you need to have your lie detector hat on. I feel like the word is cynical. Everything I see on Reels or on TikTok, I'm like, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying. I just think everyone's lying. You see those videos of like, oh, my boyfriend really loves me because he bought me a Hermes bag. Like your boyfriend, that's not an indicator of love. And people see that and they think, oh, unless my boyfriend buys me a $10,000 bag, he doesn't love me. Like, that's not the way that the world works. It's unfortunate, but every time you go on those apps, you need to be thinking so critically. You need to have your lie detector hat on. Or if you find yourself constantly falling for these things, you need to get off that app. Like, it's not healthy. You gotta nix it. You gotta say no. On the opposite hand, content that you get joy from and that makes you happy and that doesn't make you feel like you need to buy this weird pimple popping device. Let's say like animal content. Animal content, so cute, so harmless, like that. Interact with it, send it to your friend, and the algorithm will give you more. I think in time, you will be able to change what's coming up on your algorithm. Let's say you're doing a no spend year. You gotta be searching no spend and try and get that type of content onto your algorithm. Get the budgeting content, slow fashion, capsule wardrobe. Search for the things that interest you, interact with the type of content that interests you, and that's what the algorithm will feed you, and then you won't have to deal with those lying losers anymore. And this is a great lesson I think applies to so many things. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is. Okay, you guys, last question because like I could just talk forever. Oh my God, this question's crazy. From Eliza, she asked, this is so far in the future, but since you're planning to have kids, how do you feel about children's privacy on YouTube? How much do you imagine you'll show and tell about them? I think about this all the time. I feel like I could spend so much time talking about this. The short answer is that I don't know. I really don't know. It's such a hot topic right now because we're coming off of the kind of family vlogger era and the era of people showing everything on YouTube. And we're moving into a lot more of like a privacy focused area where people are not even showing their kids' faces. So it's kind of like 2 extremes. I feel like I fall in the middle where, especially when they're babies, I think it's okay to show the face from time to time. I personally love seeing the people I follow's kids because I'm not a freak and I can just appreciate a cute baby for what it is, which is a cute baby. But I definitely understand that there are freaks out there and that just, so it's really tricky. It's really, really tricky and I don't know how I'm gonna navigate it. I definitely know that I'm not going to show everything. Yeah, it gives me a weird feeling when people's whole page is like the camera in the face of the kid, but I definitely think it's okay if people, like I don't think parents are bad for showing their kid from time to time or for even showing their kid quite a bit. Like I don't think that's bad. There's definitely a line between showing your kid in a reasonable way versus showing your kid in an exploitative way. I feel like so many people now are of the mindset of like, oh, you showed your kid, you're disgusting. And it's like, okay, it doesn't have to be that extreme. That changes when they get a little bit older though. I think, I don't know. It's such a rabbit hole and I don't know how I'm gonna handle it and it's not the time to think of it now. I kind of think that like when the time comes, my maternal instincts will just kick in and they'll tell me what to do. Yeah, I don't know. But like a family vlog channel, like that's not in the cards. Sorry, I'm trying not to name names, but there was this I used to be obsessed with watching this family channel. They would do like daily vlogs and they've gotten so out of control now. And I like, you watch you just cringe. So yeah, it's definitely not gonna be that over here, but I don't know. I just don't know. Alrighty guys, last question from Emily Rivas. If you wouldn't like or be interested in YouTube, what would you be doing? What would you like to be doing? Or what would you like to do instead of YouTube? So if YouTube just didn't exist, I would probably just be doing copywriting and teaching bar but I feel like YouTube is a big way of how I was able to get into those career paths. I do think I would have ended up in the freelancer route because I'm just really not cut out for that like 9-to-5 lifestyle, at least right now. Like maybe one day I'll go back to it and it'll be fine, because sometimes I do miss the structure, but I definitely think I would have kind of made my way out of consulting. I studied HR in school, so maybe I would have kind of gone into HR, or I don't know if any of you guys remember this, but I started learning how to code. I started doing a coding boot camp. I did like the basic level. I definitely think that's something else that I could have pursued. Like I just have so many interests. I really like where I've ended up, and if YouTube were to go away, I'd probably just take on more copywriting clients and teach more classes, because that's the way that I've gone. But I love knowing that you can do anything in this world and you can always change your mind and change your career path. Like that's pretty cool. If I had more time on my hands, I'd love to finish the coding boot camp, because I just think it's a really cool skill to learn. I did that with She Codes, for anyone who's wondering. It was a really great program and I wish I had more time to do it. But yeah, that's what I'd be up to. And most influencers who answer that question say that they would be like on the other end. I don't think I would be. I'd be too jealous. So you guys, we did it. That is a wrap on this Q&A. I really hope you enjoyed it. It was a bit of budgeting, a bit of personal, and very just casual hanging out. So hope you loved it. I love you guys, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.